Welcome to the Belly Button Window channel and episode 22, part 2 of the Jimi Hendrix story, like you've never heard it before. In this episode, we conclude the deep dive into the second half of May 1968, including the tour of Italy and Switzerland. Please remember to check the channel's community tab and video information page, where you will find links to related videos, performances, and stunning photographs from the period. May 1968 saw Jimi primarily focused on the recording of the Electric Ladyland album. However, the band did head back to Europe for a couple of weeks after the Miami washout, and although they played several gigs, the whole trip had the air of a much-needed holiday, which in the end it became. Thursday, the 23rd of May, the Jimi Hendrix Experience arrives in Italy and is booked into the Windsor Hotel, Milan. According to Noel, "In Italy we were mobbed at the airport while waiting for our gear to arrive. The audience in Rome could not believe what they were seeing. Italy wasn't on the main circuit for pop groups then. Everyone was chattering like crazy to their friends about what they were hearing. They nearly drowned us out and Jimi got fed up. 'If you don't stop talking, I'll stop playing.' I came to the mic and translated it into simpler English. 'Shut up.' We were warned not to go to the Colosseum because it was dangerous, meaning frequented by homosexuals. So we snuck out between shows and went anyway. It was open all night then, so we sat and smoked a huge joint and soaked up the atmosphere." Also on the 23rd, the Experience is scheduled to perform 2 shows at the Piper Club, Milan. However, the first show is cancelled, owing to the group's equipment not arriving in time. Setlist for the second show: Hey Joe, The Wind Cries Mary, The Burning of the Midnight Lamp, and Are You Experienced? Daniele Bisazza provided the following account of a young girl who attended the Jimi Hendrix Experience concert in Milan. "I was 17 and had already consumed his records by listening to them, so just thinking about seeing it and literally feeling it exhilarated me. It wasn't easy to convince my father to let me go to Milan, but the fact that there were 3 of us, 2 other friends, was the reason I was allowed to go. So Gianni, Ernesto and I took the train from Vicenza to Milan at 6:35 a.m. And once we arrived, we went to the Piper immediately. Obviously by 11 everything was closed, but we rang the bell or knocked on the door, I really don't remember, hoping that someone like that opened it for us. We were lucky a lovely old lady, still to this day, so I don't know who this person was, who we asked to purchase tickets to be sure to see the afternoon concert. She told us she didn't have tickets, and she couldn't help us, but then, given our young age and our pleading faces, and as a result she provided us with 3 handwritten notes for entry to the afternoon concert. Indescribable was our joy, and being noon now, we went to eat a sandwich in a bar. When we got back to the door, there were already 30 or 40 people waiting for it to open. After showing the notes to the cashier, we managed to gain entry. In front of the stage, there were already people who had taken a chair and were sitting comfortably. My friends and I sat far away, thinking that as we grew up, we might get to see Jimi too. Hours passed and Jimi did not arrive. I remember a song, Black Cat, that says, 'Take that cat, black cat,' was played so many times that it really stuck with me as an obsession. When Jimi finally arrived, it was a great joy for everyone and for me. I could finally see him in the flesh, but we were also told that his instruments were still in customs, and obviously he couldn't play more in the afternoon, and we were all reassured that at least the evening concert would definitely take place. I also remember one of the guys from the audience brought the cover of Axis Boulder's Love, and he did the autograph. How lucky is this guy? He had a tangible memory of Jimi. The story for the 3 of us should have a sad ending. Refunding the afternoon ticket money didn't allow us to buy a new ticket for the evening because the cost was higher, and we didn't have enough. It was Gianni who had the great idea of looking for her again. We were told to go to the kitchen, and when he saw us crying, he helped us again. Rather than letting us out with the rest of the audience, gave the order, "Let's close the 3 in the garden." We could have been at the evening concert without going out and paying for a new ticket. Great. As I said before, I can't name this angel who helped us, but without her we would never have been able to listen to Jimi. Happiness was too small a word, because when they opened the doors, the rest of the audience came in, and some of us sat and everyone else stood. When Jimi walked in, he had the white Stratocaster and a lit cigarette in his mouth. Someone from the audience held out their hand and he held it out to them. My memory of the concert was big, huge, great as it always was, although the acoustics were not the best. I remember that, almost at the end of the concert, we were all seated. We stood up, and this gesture made Jimi return to the stage, also pulling the wah-wah pedal behind. I don't remember the repertoire of songs he made, but it is certain that I will remember him all my life for all these emotions. His music managed to convey to me with great genius and excellence Unfortunately, never repeatable. Sometimes I wish I could talk to someone about that day, but unfortunately my two friends have since passed away. According to Hendrix authors Harry Shapiro and Cesar Glebig, the Experience's short tour of Europe consisted of 3 dates in Italy and 2 headlining a package in Switzerland with John Mayall, Eric Burdon, Traffic and the Small Faces. En route to Italy, Noel met Eric BARRETT, roadie for the Nice, and offered him the job of replacing Neville Chesters. Eric said he would think about it, staggered home drunk from Blaze Club at 4:30 a.m, and there hours later got a call from Jerry Stickles, asking him to make up his mind. Eric was soon on the plane to Milan. He was thrown in the deep end. Much of the gear was in pieces from the US tour, and he felt the keen edge of Jimmy's intolerance at equipment that kept breaking down. Sick of Jimmy's abuse, Eric almost left there and then. But Jimmy apologized and Eric stayed with him, right to the end of Jimmy's life. The following is an excerpt from when Jimi Hendrix set Italy on fire. His wild eyes and his legendary poses on stage, the backstage images that best convey the era of total and now lost freedom, the sarcasm and inability to understand of the press. The Italian tour of the Jimi Hendrix Experience in May 1968 was organized by Massimo Bernardi and Oscar Porri, among the most important national promoters at the time. Theirs was a move dictated more by their passion for Hendrix's music than by real business needs, also because, in that period, Hendrix was relatively well known. The majority of young people adored beat groups and went crazy for rhythm and blues. The tour was announced a couple of months earlier by the few specialized newspapers of the time, which mistakenly reported dates also in Naples and Turin. The Italian press was unprepared and described Hendrix as a savage, an eccentric, a deviant of the beat culture, without caring much about his music. When he arrived in our country on May 23, 1968, Jimi Hendrix was practically at the peak of his short career. Here he found an apocalyptic scene. The ticket holders of the first show, cancelled due to delays in the customs clearance procedures for the equipment, who had to leave to let those of the second concert in, felt no reason, not even the idea of being reimbursed there. There were no alternatives, everyone in. Thus the capacity of the venue, about 400 people, was almost doubled. Despite this, many were forced to stay outside. This was also why incredible chaos was created. Jimmy spoke briefly to the audience, signed many autographs, mingled among the crowd, chatting amiably with fans, and of course, posed for photographs with many people, including several venue employees. At around 7 p.m., Jimmy and Noel, amidst the general confusion, slipped out of the Piper and returned to the Hotel Windsor, where they were called for some photo sessions, a quick change of clothes, and then around 9 p.m. back to the Piper for the concert. The first set of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, set for 4:30 p.m., had been cancelled because the equipment was blocked at Lynate Customs. Therefore, after the supporters Wes and the Airedales and the Bobos band, a long wait began, and shortly before at 10:30 p.m., the Experience finally went on stage. The club was packed beyond belief. People were packed in like sardines inside, and a few hundred people were forced to stay outside, with or without tickets. Based on various testimonies, we can reconstruct the set list. He played Killing Floor, Stone Free, Fire, Hey Joe, I Don't Live Today, Foxy Lady, Red House, Manic Depression, Purple Haze, and ended the concert with Wild Thing. Unfortunately, no recordings of the performance exist. After the concert, there was the usual coming and going of journalists, fans, friends, and assorted onlookers. Jimmy found an old friend from New York, Yvonne or Luna, who at the time was a model in Milan, and was also the girlfriend of Victor Sogliani, bassist of Equipe 84. It was she who introduced Inez Curatolo to him. Inez proposed to Jimmy that they go to Villa Bodoni, the residence commune of Equipe 84, a refuge for musicians and poets, where they spent a good part of the night together. The following is an excerpt from an interview Jimi Hendrix did with GIGI MOVILIA, Rome, May 1968. Since I've been to Europe, I've met 1 in 100 people who let me talk about what I want to. Everybody asks me how old I am, if it is true I have Indian blood, how many women I've had, if I am married, if I have a Rolls or more of those jokes. The people who dig me don't want this at all. They want something different, to feel something inside, something real, revolution, struggle, rebellion. On Friday, May 24th, 1968, the Jimi Hendrix Experience performed 2 shows at Teatro Brancaccio in Rome, Italy, with support from Dr. K's blues band, Pierfranco Colonna and Ampe, Franco Estil groups Il Balletto and MC Eddie Ponto. Setlist for the first show: Sunshine of Your Love, Fire, Stone Free, Hey Joe, Red House, Foxy Lady, Manic Depression, Purple Haze, and A Wild Thing. And for the second show, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Fire, The Wind Cries Mary, Red House, Purple Haze, Foxy Lady, I Don't Live Today, Up From the Skies, and Wild Thing. After their 2 concerts, the members of the Experience go to the Titan Club to participate in a jam session. Noel and Jimmy swap instruments, and Enrique Topel Cabans, singer of local band The Folks, joins in this jam. On the same day, the Jimi Hendrix Experience is featured in the following music magazines and newspapers. Go Magazine, May 24, 1968 edition, where Are You Experienced features at number 17 in the top 20 albums list. According to Mitch, I think we'd more or less finished the basic Electric Ladyland recordings when we made our first trip to Italy. The first night in Milan was a strange kind of disco affair, but no big deal. A gig. Rome was very pleasant. I remember that Hendrix nearly got arrested. We had been to the Colosseum and were caught by the police at dawn with several young ladies. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing? The last gig was in a modern sports stadium in Bologna, where we did an afternoon show. There was a riot, which I think had already started when we arrived, overpriced tickets or something. You never really found out about these things. We did our set, but had to leave pretty damn quickly. Very pleasant 4 days, more of a holiday really. Jimmy and I really loved Italy. Saturday the 25th of May, and the group plays 2 further shows at the Teatro Brancaccio, Rome. First show setlist: Introduction, I Don't Live Today, Hey Joe, Stone Free, Manic Depression, Foxy Lady, Red House, and Wild Thing. And for the second show, Fire, Stone Free, Red House, Hey Joe, I Don't Live Today, Foxy Lady, and Purple Haze. On the same day, the Jimi Hendrix Experience is featured in the following music magazines and newspapers: Disc and Music Echo, May 25th, 1968 edition, where the Smash Hits LP sits at number 7 on the top 10 LPs list. An account of Jimmy's concert in Rome. In 1968, I was 16 and I went to the Jimi Hendrix Rome show. One morning I was on the bus to school and there was a stop right in front of Brancaccio. A little sleepy, I looked at the posters and saw, to my surprise, huge posters with the face of a black man with a never-before-seen haircut. I didn't know who he was, but he was black and he played blues. I said to myself, I have to go see him. I asked 2 of my friends if they wanted to come with me, but they didn't come. Well, I decided to go alone. It was May 25th and I went to the afternoon concert. In front of the Brancaccio there was a colourful crowd, long hair, fringed jackets, high-heeled ankle boots, bell-bottom velvet pants, and so on. The doors opened and I entered the gallery to see the whole scene. When the curtain rose, after the performances of several groups, I saw that at the back of the stage there was the famous Marshall wall, the drums and 2 guitars perched on the floor. I asked myself, but only a bass and a Fender. But how do they play? I was surprised because until that moment I thought that groups were made up of at least 4 elements. Then when the Experience started playing, I understood everything. I was hit with an unexpected hurricane of sound and distortion. A feeling I've never felt before was incredible and hard to describe. There was no way we could get all these sounds out. Was there a Martian on stage or something? I was so stunned and in disbelief, so absorbed in what I saw and heard, that I no longer paid attention to anyone. Jimmy threw himself on the ground. He played with his teeth, with the Fender in the middle of his legs, affectionate on the amps and on the boom and the microphone. Something never seen before. I said to myself, luckily that there is someone like that. Something could change. In my life. And in fact, since that day I have become more sure of my revolutionary beliefs. Right after seeing Jimmy at the Brancaccio, I bought Are You Experienced? And with a friend, one of the 2 who didn't come, we were fascinated listening to it, trying to understand what we heard. Giuseppe Nisio. And later that evening, just like the day before, the Jimi Hendrix Experience returns to the Titan Club to participate in a jam session. With Noel and Mitch too drunk to play, Jimmy invites 2 audience members to join him, drummer Alberto Marozzi and bass player Pierfranco Pavone. Alberto Marozzi reported, "We improvised for almost half an hour on 3 pieces, a standard, a blues theme, and a long version of Foxy Lady." While also that day at the Hotel Metropole, Rome. The Experience's interview by Edith Wieland from the Swiss newspaper Blick Colosseum in Rome. Sunday, the 26th of May, and the Experience performs 2 shows at PALASPORT, Bologna. Jimi Hendrix was more than 90 minutes late for his concert in Bologna, causing panic among promoters and staff. Rumors swirled that Jimmy was very tired or very drunk. Both were incorrect. A few hours before the start of the concert, Jimmy left his room at the Alexander Hotel, via Pietra Melara, 4749 Bologna, to walk around the Bologna Central Station. In a nearby park, Parco della Montagnola perhaps, Hendrix was recognized by a group of fans who had just gotten off the train from Lucca and were heading to Jimmy's concert. One of them, we only know his first name, Gabriele, told us almost 30 years ago what happened on that very hot afternoon. Jimmy was staying at the Alexander Hotel, located near the station and with small gardens opposite. When they saw Jimi Hendrix walking through the flower beds, this group of fans seemed to recognize him. At first, they couldn't believe their own eyes, because they didn't know that Jimmy would stay in this hotel in front of them. Then, however, they approached him and started talking to him. Someone passed some joints, and time flew by. Later, a breathless staff member arrived. He was looking for Jimmy and quickly took him away. A moment before Jimmy left, one of the band members plucked some roses from a nearby bush and gave them to him, which Jimmy used as decoration on the headstock of his white Stratocaster. Meanwhile, at the Alexander Hotel, everyone was panicking because Jimmy had disappeared, and no one knew where he was. Eventually, Jimmy, who was known for his tendency to lose track of time, arrived at the hotel. This is why the afternoon concert at the Jimi Hendrix Experience started about 90 minutes late. Someone on stage tried to stall for time and told the audience that Jimmy was late because of a car accident. Fortunately, the first few bands kept the crowd entertained, as many bands had been playing since 4:30 that afternoon. The combination of the guitar strap with that white Strat and the Bologna roses attached to the neck of his guitar will last quite a while. Set list for the first show at the Palasport, Bologna: Fire, Hey Joe, Stone Free, Red House, Tax Free, Purple Haze, and Foxy Lady. After their 2 concerts, the members of the group go to the Stork Club to participate in a jam session with the group Boa Boa. On the same day, the Jimi Hendrix Experience is featured in the newspaper El Unita, May 26, 1968 edition. Monday, the 27th of May, sees Jimmy flying back to New York. Tuesday, the 28th of May, and Jimmy is back in New York for a business meeting in connection with the PPX case against him and his management. While Wednesday, the 29th of May, sees the band on a flight to Zurich. Also, the Experience is featured in the music magazine Go Set, May 29th, 1968 edition. According to Noel Redding, Zurich anticipated our arrival by laying on 200 extra police, some whom, friendly lads, followed us everywhere we went. When they complained that our rehearsal was too loud, official earplugs were issued. The prim and proper hotel staff hated us when we arrived, trailing hordes of press in various stages of inebriation. Whether the police presence sparked the crowds or not, there were incidents at both shows. The first night, the police linked arms and marched the length of the stadium, cracking anyone who got in the way. The next night, the audience showed their appreciation, or perhaps their retaliation, by breaking up the chairs. Even the hangers-on were strange. The hotel was raided and guests thrown out. It was a relief to leave. Thursday, 30th and Friday, the 31st of May, sees the Jimi Hendrix Experience perform 2 shows each day in what is billed as the Monsterkonzert at the Hallenstadion in Zurich. The support acts include The Move, Anselmo Trend, Traffic, The Small Faces, The Kubas, John Moyle's Bluesbreakers, Eric Burden and the Animals, and the Ira Apparent. After the shows, Jimmy participates in jam sessions with Chris Wood on flute, Stevie Winwood, organ, Trevor Burton, drums, Carl Wayne, congas, and Vic Briggs, bass guitar. The following is an account of the Monsterkonzert by Esther Unterfinger. The lineup was huge and included Anselmo Trend, John Mayall's Bluesbreakers, the Kubas, Eric Burden, and the New Animals, Traffic, and The Move. But the evening's undisputed highlight was Jimi Hendrix himself, performing with his newly formed band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. The band played at the packed-out Hallenstadion for 2 nights in a row, on the 30th and the 31st of May 1968. Both events were organized by Hans-Rudi Jaegi, who had already brought the Rolling Stones to Zurich the previous year. After Jimi Hendrix's second performance on the Friday evening, a few wooden chairs were broken. Because the audience threw their folding chairs into a heap to dance, the television images of the concert aired later wrongly suggested mountains of smashed furniture. After the concert finished, some people warmed themselves around a campfire outside the building. The fans then peacefully marched towards the Zurich main station. The police took this as an opportunity to take drastic measures against the young people, firing water cannons and rubber bullets into the crowd. Riots erupted, some of which moved towards the city center and lasted until the early hours of the morning. Young people's simmering discontent with an establishment seen as bourgeois suddenly erupted. The so-called Globus riots, which went down in Swiss history, took place only 4 weeks after Hendrix's Monster concert. Postscript. After the concert, Jimi Hendrix went to a Zurich restaurant to eat dinner, where staff refused to serve him. The reason? His skin color. That concludes this installment of the series. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we will begin the deep dive into June of 1968 of the Hendrix story, including the continued recording of their third album, Electric Ladyland, along with the various New York's jam sessions, including Jeff Beck for that month. Don't forget to subscribe for future content updates. And by the way, if you have any stories or anecdotes to contribute, we would love to hear from you.